Imagine a scenario where a single piece of paper signed quietly on a desk in Switzerland, effectively redraws the security map of the entire Middle East.
Right, a document that, well, simultaneously unfreezes billions of dollars and pauses a devastating regional conflict.
Yes, and forces historical allies to suddenly and profoundly question each other's motives. Good morning, and welcome to a special intelligence briefing on the current events shaping the region and the country.
Good morning.
This deep dive is sponsored by ProWave AI and is generated by Stylo News, the AI-powered news application. The broadcast you are tuning into is formally titled Middle East Crisis Update, 23 June 2026. Region, Middle East, date 23 June 2026.
And we should note this is a special two-week analysis of the Middle East crisis.
Exactly. And to provide some essential context for what you're about to hear, the Stylo News application is actually the consumer version of the Stylo Intel Ops software.
Right, which is a system originally engineered for, enterprise operations,
Yeah.
so across government, military, and international business sectors.
Which means you, the listener, have unique access to a tool designed specifically to support global decision makers in navigating these highly complex geopolitical landscapes.
Precisely. Our objective today is to provide a calm, objective, and, well, thoroughly factual assessment of a highly volatile situation.
We're going to examine the primary patterns of events and their impacts at the local, national, and international levels.
Because the mission of this briefing is critical. We are not looking at isolated tactical events today.
No, not at all.
Rather, we're analyzing interconnected, strategic, operational, political, economic and military challenges that will fundamentally influence regional stability, global markets, and energy security.
As well as international diplomacy. So to navigate this effectively, we're going to be looking at three specific lines of analysis today.
Right. First, whether Iran and its network can preserve their military capabilities. Second, whether the United States and its partners can effectively restore deterrence.
And third, whether Israel can protect its population while shaping the conditions for a sustainable peace arrangement.
Exactly.
Okay, let's unpack this. To understand this shifting map, we have to start with the epicenter of the current diplomatic shockwave, right? Iran and its regional network of proxy forces.
Without a doubt. The most significant geopolitical development in this theater is the recent Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU, signed in Switzerland by United States President Donald Trump and Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian.
Right. And the core terms of this agreement are pretty extensive, aren't they?
They are. They include a 60-day ceasefire extension across multiple fronts, the unfreezing of certain Iranian assets, and the lifting of specific economic sanctions.
And crucially, a framework for joint management of the Strait of Hormuz alongside the nation of Oman.
Correct.
But wait, let's look at the internal assessments we have regarding Iran's domestic situation for a second. Our sources indicate that the Iranian regime, under Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khamenei, is currently dealing with, widespread internet blackouts and severe crackdowns by state security forces.
Right, there is significant internal unrest. So if the regime is facing that kind of intense internal pressure, why are they suddenly in a position to negotiate joint maritime management with the United States?
Well, it's precisely because of that internal fragility that the external agreement becomes so necessary for Tehran. Economic relief is paramount for regime survival right now. By unfreezing assets, the state can alleviate some of the domestic economic pressure that's, actually driving the unrest.
And Oman's inclusion in this?
Oman's inclusion is the mechanical key here. Oman has historically acted as the trusted, neutral broker in the region.
Right.
Their involvement provides a buffer. It allows the United States and Iran to coordinate maritime security without having to officially formalize a direct bilateral military partnership.
Which would be politically unpalatable for both sides.
Exactly.
Turning to the immediate kinetic conflicts, we must examine the facts on the ground in Gaza. The Palestinian Health Ministry reports that casualties have now surpassed 73,000.
It's a staggering figure.
It is. In the diplomatic sphere, Hamas and allied factions are currently reviewing a revised ceasefire proposal drafted by United Nations mediator Nikolai Mladenov. We are seeing tentative support from Hamas for the amendments.
Tentative support, yes. But there remains a massive critical caveat regarding their disarmament.
That's correct.
Hamas retains profound structural incentives to not disarm voluntarily. Within their operational logic, weapons aren't just tools for warfare. They are their principal source of coercive leverage.
Right. They provide internal legitimacy among their hardline constituencies.
Exactly, and crucial bargaining power in any negotiations, plus deterrence against rival Palestinian actors.
So without a coercive multinational enforcement regime, or I suppose a complete military defeat, the intelligence assessment is that a voluntary surrender of arms remains highly unlikely.
Highly unlikely.
Let's translate that for clarity. When you say a coercive multinational enforcement regime, you essentially mean an outside international army physically entering the territory to confiscate the weapons by force, correct? Because otherwise, if the Israeli Defense Forces are systematically dismantling their infrastructure, how much leverage do those weapons actually buy Hamas at this point?
Well, it would require an external force willing to engage in combat to disarm them. As for the leverage, it is less about winning a conventional military victory at this stage.
Okay.
It's more about holding a veto over the peace process. As long as they maintain a localized capacity to inflict costs, they essentially force international mediators like Mladinov to include them in the political calculus.
And that exact same logic appears to be bleeding directly over the border into Lebanon. I mean, the conflict there has resulted in over 4,100 Lebanese casualties and extensive infrastructure damage, currently estimated at $1.38 billion.
Right, and Hezbollah's position absolutely mirrors that of Hamas regarding disarmament.
They firmly reject any demands to dismantle their military capabilities.
They do. But they're taking it a step further politically. Hezbollah has actively demanded that the official Lebanese government withdraw from the ongoing peace talks in Washington, D.C.
Wait, why would they do that? Wouldn't a formalized state agreement help stabilize Lebanon and, by extension, secure Hezbollah's immediate environment?
No, because they view those direct state-level negotiations as a threat to their autonomy.
Oh, I see.
If the official Lebanese government signs a binding international treaty that mandates a demilitarized southern security zone, Hezbollah transforms, under domestic and international law, from a recognized resistance force into a rogue illegal militia operating in defiance of its own government.
So they are trying to prevent the state from legally constraining their military freedom.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the maritime threat vector. We have the Strait of Hormuz, tentatively addressed by the MOU, but how are the Houthis in Yemen utilizing this regional instability to exert pressure on the other side of the Arabian Peninsula?
Well, what's fascinating here is the persistent and highly adaptive nature of the Houthis' strategic leverage.
They've been very active.
Very. In the past 24 hours, Houthi leadership declared that no, quote, Zionist ship will be permitted to pass through the Red Sea until adequate humanitarian aid reaches Gaza.
And while this is officially framed around the Palestinian cause, the practical mechanical effect is a broad, sustained disruption of global shipping.
Right. It's increasing insurance premiums and delaying supply chains worldwide.
And we're also seeing intelligence regarding a potential new flashpoint in the region. Recent reporting highlights rumors of a potential Israeli-Somaliland security arrangement centered around the port of Berbera. Help us visualize the geography there and explain why the Houthis care about a port in Somaliland.
Geographically, Berbera sits on the Horn of Africa, directly opposite Yemen, across the Gulf of Aden.
Okay.
So it's a critical maritime choke point. Houthi military officials are rapidly utilizing this unverified rumor to justify further escalatory threats.
Interesting.
They claim an Israeli presence in Berbera introduces a new geographic axis of threat directly aimed at Yemen. Whether the security arrangement is real or not, it provides the Houthis with a highly convenient, fresh narrative to maintain their blockade posture.
And to justify their military mobilization to their own population.
Precisely.
So if Iran's proxy network is this deeply entrenched from Gaza to Lebanon to the Red Sea, how is Washington actually supposed to untangle it without sparking a full-blown regional war?
It's incredibly delicate.
Feels a bit like they're trying to execute a controlled burn here, right? Like foresters intentionally starving a larger wildfire of oxygen by burning away the brush around it, hoping to keep the flames contained strictly to their current borders.
That analogy effectively illustrates the Trump administration's current diplomatic approach. To prevent that regional spillover, the United States has imposed strict operational restrictions on Israel as a condition of ongoing support.
Most notably, Washington has banned Israeli military operations in the Lebanese cities of Beirut and Sur.
Yes.
Explain the strategic reasoning behind protecting those specific cities.
Well, Beirut is the political and economic capital, and Sur is a major population center in the south. Striking them wouldn't just be a tactical military action.
Right.
It would be viewed as an attack on the sovereign identity of Lebanon itself, which historically triggers broader, uncontrollable regional mobilizations.
So Washington is attempting to force a de-escalation in the Northern Theater by removing the most provocative targets from the board.
Exactly. And simultaneously, Vice President J.D. Vance has focused American diplomatic messaging heavily on securing and maintaining international nuclear inspections within Iran.
He's attempting to use the economic parameters of the new Swiss MOU to lock in those nuclear safeguards before the ceasefire window closes.
That's the objective, yes.
You know, it is also vital to note how deeply this international crisis is impacting domestic American politics.
Oh, absolutely.
The foreign policy decisions regarding the Middle East are creating profound fractures within domestic political coalitions.
Very true.
As an example of this severe political polarization, former MSNBC host Joy Reid recently announced her formal departure from the Democratic Party.
Right, and she explicitly cited her opposition to the party's official stance on Israel as the catalyst for her exit.
We are witnessing foreign policy actively rewriting domestic political affiliations.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, we see those domestic American fractures mirrored by deep existential anxieties among the Gulf Cooperation Council, or GCC, states.
Yes, these regional partners are highly concerned about Iran's preserved missile capabilities.
Exactly. And they're suddenly questioning the long-term reliability of American security guarantees in light of the Swiss MOU.
So in response to this anxiety, United States Senator Marco Rubio has been deployed, actively engaging with leadership in the UAE, Kuwait, and Bahrain to reinforce those historical alliances.
Correct.
Let's unpack the specific vulnerabilities those nations are facing. Take Qatar's Ras Laffan industrial city, for example.
Right. Well, Ras Laffan is a critical centralized node for global liquefied natural gas. It's not just a port, it's the beating heart of Qatar's economy and a major pillar of global energy markets.
And it remains highly exposed to potential Iranian coercive action.
It does. If even a single stray drone or missile were to strike that facility, global energy prices would instantly destabilize.
Wow. Meanwhile, the Strait of Hormuz, despite the new joint management framework, remains deeply insecure.
It is technically open to commercial tanker traffic, but shipping firms are operating under the constant looming threat of Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps harassment.
And further inland, we're seeing Jordan maintaining its historical role as a stable but highly exposed diplomatic hub.
Yes, which is evidenced by the recent high-level Saudi-Jordanian foreign ministry meetings taking place in Amman.
Right. They are actively engaged in localized crisis management, desperately trying to prevent the conflict from spilling over their shared borders.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean for Israel? They are watching Washington sign an agreement with Tehran, they are watching the GCC scramble for reassurances, and they are managing multi-front military operations. How are Israeli decision-makers navigating these intense international pressures while maintaining the security of their population?
Well, from the perspective of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the broader Israeli defense establishment, the U.S. Iran Memorandum of Understanding is viewed with profound concern.
They assess the agreement as a strategic loss that effectively empowers Iran by lifting vital economic pressure while leaving Tehran's expansive proxy networks entirely intact.
Consequently, Israel is maintaining a remarkably firm, unyielding stance at the ongoing peace talks in Washington.
They have established an absolute precondition for any lasting peace, which is the complete and verifiable disarmament of Hezbollah.
Yeah.
But based on our earlier analysis, isn't that an impossible ask? I mean, we just established that Hezbollah views its weapons as its core identity and will never voluntarily disarm.
Right.
So if Israel says disarmament is an absolute precondition, aren't we just looking at a permanent diplomatic stalemate?
Israeli leadership argues that returning to the pre-war status quo, where a heavily armed militia sits directly on their northern border, is simply unacceptable for the safety of their northern communities.
Yeah.
To break that stalemate, they intend to maintain a permanent physical security zone in southern Lebanon until that threat is neutralized, either diplomatically or militarily.
And on the southern front, the Israeli Defense Forces continue their military operations within the Gaza Strip. The stated objective remains the targeted elimination of Hamas militants and the systemic dismantling of their military infrastructure and command capabilities.
Right.
In covering this objectively, we must also report on the intense dialogue occurring within international legal institutions. The United Nations Independent International Commission of Inquiry has formally accused Israel of the deliberate targeting of Palestinian children, framing these military actions as genocide and crimes against humanity.
And the diplomatic counterclaims to those charges define the current international gridlock.
Precisely. Israel vehemently denies these charges. Israeli officials state categorically that the high civilian casualty rate is the direct, unavoidable result of Hamas's established strategy of utilizing civilian infrastructure, specifically hospitals, schools, and dense residential areas, as military command centers and weapons depots.
Right.
Israel maintains that it has a fundamental legal obligation to secure its borders and protect its citizens from future attacks, and that international law places the burden of civilian harm on the actor utilizing human shields. These are the claims and counterclaims defining the current geopolitical dialogue at the highest levels.
It is a profoundly complex operational environment where absolute military objectives are constantly colliding with the boundaries of international legal and humanitarian frameworks.
Absolutely. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. To understand how these high-level diplomatic and military events are actually resonating globally among the public, we can turn to Stylo News' analysis of social media sentiment.
Yes, specifically, we're tracking data across the X platform over the past 24 hours.
Because public intelligence often provides a stark, contrasting layer to official state narratives. So, what is the data telling us?
The sentiment data is highly revealing. Regarding Iran and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the sentiment among Iranian users is overwhelmingly negative.
Wow, really?
Yes, users are deeply critical of the regime's internal crackdowns, the internet blackouts, and what they view as costly military overreach abroad.
It indicates a stark, measurable divide between the state's aggressive foreign policy actions and its actual domestic public support.
Exactly. Now, when looking at the populations of Lebanon and Israel, the data shows intense polarization, as expected.
Among Lebanese users, there is a profound, palpable fear of continued infrastructure destruction and civilian loss.
Conversely, pro-Israel users demonstrate strong, unified support for the ongoing military actions, viewing them as necessary and existential defense.
However, what is truly notable is that across both of these opposing demographics, there is a shared, broad frustration regarding the fragility and unreliability of the current ceasefire arrangements. No one feels secure.
No one. Finally, regarding Gulf diplomacy and the U.S. Iran deal, the sentiment among regional observers is defined by cautious skepticism.
There's widespread doubt in the Gulf that temporary economic concessions will do anything to alter Iran's long-term regional strategies.
Right.
So, looking forward, how should we interpret these patterns?
This raises an important question. What are the specific, measurable indicators you should be watching for in the next 72 hours?
Okay, what are they?
First, watch for Hamas's formal official response to the Memorandum ceasefire amendments. Will they accept the operational terms, or will the disarmament clauses cause the talks to completely collapse?
Second, closely monitor the outcomes of the Israel-Lebanon diplomatic talks currently happening in Washington. Any breakdown there will likely result in immediate kinetic escalation along the blue line.
Yeah.
And just to clarify for our listeners, by kinetic escalation, we mean a return to active, heavy cross-border artillery and airstrikes, moving away from diplomacy and back to pure military engagement.
Precisely. A return to active combat. And finally, watch for any indirect Iranian proxy harassment in the Strait of Hormuz or the Red Sea.
Right.
If Tehran begins to feel that the Switzerland MOU is stalling, or that the United States is not delivering on sanctions relief fast enough, they will likely activate their maritime proxies to remind the global market and Washington of their leverage.
That concludes our intelligence briefing for today. As a reminder, the comprehensive insights and data provided in this deep dive were generated by Stylo News.
And Stylo News is available as both a mobile and computer application that you can download and heavily customize.
It allows individuals to generate personal, intelligent-style briefs, pulling from hundreds of vetted, traditional news sources, as well as real-time sentiment data from X.
So to gain access to AI-powered news on demand and to customize your own global intelligence feed to track these exact geopolitical shifts, we highly encourage you to subscribe at www.stylonews.com.
And scene. Wow, okay, stepping out of the anger dust for a second, that was intense. I have to say, putting on that 1960s broadcaster persona really makes you appreciate how incredibly heavy and complex these global events are when you lay them all out back to back like that.
It certainly requires a very different kind of focus.
Yeah.
I mean, stripping away the emotion and the noise to look purely at the mechanics of geopolitics is a rigorous exercise.
Oh, yeah.
But it is an absolutely necessary one if you want to truly understand the board and see where the pieces are moving next.
Absolutely. It changes how you consume the news. We want to warmly thank you, our listener, for joining us for this deep dive today.
We know it's heavy material, but understanding the world is the very first step to successfully navigating it.
We would love to hear what you want us to look into next. Please feel free to request topics for future deep dives, and don't forget to follow Stylo News on your favorite social media platforms to keep this conversation going.
Before we sign off completely, I want to leave you with a thought regarding the very technology that made this briefing possible today.
Oh, interesting.
If advanced AI intelligence tools like StyloOps are now capable of mapping the exact pressure points, the intricate economic vulnerabilities, and the shifting public sentiments of global conflicts in real time,
Right.
how long until state diplomacy is entirely driven by algorithmic risk assessment rather than human negotiation?
Wow.
And perhaps the more important question for you to ponder, does perfect information actually prevent wars, or does it just change how they are fought?